All right, let's get right into it. If you've ever spent any time looking for a house online, you know Zillow. I mean, we all do. But the way you search for a home, the way you're used to searching, that might be on the verge of a major change. Zillow just made a big move, and it could totally shift how we find our next home. And believe me, it's kicking off a huge debate in the real estate world.
And really, this is the question, isn't it? For years, it feels like the process has been getting easier and easier. More info, all in one spot. But is that trend about to slam into reverse? Let's break down what's really going on here.
So, what is this big shakeup? Well, it all kicks off with this new program from Zillow, and it's a move that's already sending these huge ripples through the market. Everybody in the industry is talking about it. So, let's take a look.
The program's called Preview, and the idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's really, really powerful. Basically, it lets real estate agents pre-market their listings. They can show them on Zillow before they officially go live on the main marketplace that all the agents use, the MLS. So think of it like a sneak peek, but a sneak peek that has some major consequences.
And listen, this is not some small-scale test. Zillow has already teamed up with some of the absolute biggest names in the business. We're talking Keller Williams, RE/MAX, HomeServices of America, the heavy hitters. Zillow is basically setting itself up to be the central hub for these major players. And when these guys get on board, you better believe the entire industry sits up and pays attention.
Now, what's so interesting here is that Zillow's move isn't happening out of the blue. No, it's actually just one piece of a much larger trend that's picking up speed really fast.
I mean, just look at what's happened in the last few weeks alone. First, you've got Compass and Redfin teaming up for their own coming soon listings. Then last week, a massive brokerage, Hanna, launches its own private internal listing network. And now, this week, Zillow jumps in with Preview. It honestly feels like a new arms race to control where you see homes first.
Okay, so with all this happening, it's forcing a really fundamental debate right out into the open. It kind of boils down to two totally different ways of thinking about the best way to sell a house. You've got the old school open market path versus this newer, more exclusive approach.
So on one side, you had this open marketplace idea. Chris Kelly, the CEO of HomeServices of America, put it perfectly. The whole point is to draw the biggest crowd to get the best deal for the seller. But then on the other side, you've got this walled garden strategy. And I love this. Kelly calls it a secret passage speakeasy approach. It's all about private, selective, early marketing to just a specific group of people.
But here's where it gets nuanced. Kelly, whose company is actually part of Zillow's new program, says, look, it's not a simple either-or. He thinks the industry needs to be smarter about this, suggesting the best answer isn't at one extreme or the other. It's somewhere in the middle. The big question, of course, is, where is that middle?
Okay, so you have this huge industry debate going on, but let's bring it all back to what really matters, to you. How does all this jockeying for position actually affect you when you're trying to buy a home? Well, this is where a really great analogy comes in.
So here's that warning from Chris Kelly again. If every single company creates its own private network of listings, we could wind up with what he calls a fragmented marketplace. And what that means for you, the buyer, is you'd have to jump between a dozen different websites just to make sure you're seeing everything that's for sale. Sound familiar?
And this is exactly what people are calling the streaming service problem. Think about it. The old way, with the MLS at the center of everything, that was like having cable TV, right? One bill, all the channels. Simple. The new risk is that the housing market becomes like streaming is today. You need Netflix for one show, Disney Plus for another, Hulu for something else. In real estate terms, you'd have to check Zillow's Preview and Redfin's exclusives and Hanna's private list just so you don't miss out on your dream house.
All of this is happening right now, which is why people are calling this a real pulse check moment for the entire real estate industry. This isn't just some minor adjustment. This is a potential turning point. And that's really the core message from guys like Kelly. Yeah, the temptation for a company to get a short-term win with an exclusive platform is huge. Of course it is. But the real challenge here is to step back and think about the long game. What kind of market are we building for agents? And more importantly, for all of us 5-10 years down the road?
So at the end of the day, we're left with this one big question. Is all this competition and all this new tech actually creating a better, more efficient market for everyone? Or are we just building a bunch of walled gardens, making things more complicated, more confusing, and ultimately harder for people to find a place to call home? The moves the industry makes next? Well, that's what we'll decide.